Hello and welcome to Volume 1, Issue number 15 of Ask Zenatta Anything About Zoho. This is the show where we answer all of your Zoho questions, whether they came in from our YouTube channel or over on club.zenatta.com, our online community, or maybe you emailed us. Who knows how we got the questions, but if you ask us questions during the week, we're going to answer them right here. And I am Brett Martin, and with me today, I've got Greg Belknap, I've got Tyler Cole, I've got Josh Oliver. All of them right over here. So anyway, I'm not sure I'm pointing the right directions, but you never know. Glad we got everybody on today, and we've got a really, really packed show. I think 17, 18 questions. So with that, let's get right on into it. And our first question comes from the American Victory Alliance, or AVA as they like to be known. Thank you for sharing such wonderful insights into the crazy world of Zoho. This was actually after watching our YouTube video, Easy Pick List Management with Zoho CRM Global Sets. You are welcome. My question, can global sets be pushed to or integrated with a drop-down field in Zoho Forms? I have a long list of different business categories in CRM, but I need to figure out how to share with a form so that when someone enrolls in the program to select that predefined category or value, or there is a simple way to export my global set to a copy and paste into the form. What you got for me? Thanks again. Well, AVA, I don't know if anyone else is going to have a different answer to this, but I spend a bit of time today trying to solve for this. No, unfortunately, global sets do not seem to be integrated over in Zoho Forms yet. My guess is that will be a thing. And man, oh man, you think there'd be a nifty, easy way to copy and paste a list of choices, but there is not. You can go in and you can do a copy and it looks like it's copying everything, but when you paste, you got nothing. It's empty. There are a couple of list views. There are other things you can do, but I found absolutely no way to copy and paste from any pick list inside of CRM just to copy it so you could then paste it. Have you guys figured anything out? Is there like some script that could be written that would export that list? Or
I just write them all in a document first and then import them into both. That's my normal process for that.
Take that document for easy cut and pasting going forward when you make changes. Is that it?
Kind of the easy way to do it.
But I will say, yes, there is an API call you could make to get the list of options in there. It's under the metadata category of API calls, so you can pull that list via Deluge.
All right.
So if you're into custom scripting, you can do it.
So not sure what we had for you. It was what you wanted, but that is the answer. And for our next question, we're leaving the panel altogether, and Wayne is going to answer this one because it was right in his wheelhouse. So through the magic of television, here's Wayne.
All right, thanks, guys. Hey, N. Mulaney 321 had a question on our YouTube video, dynamically changing Zoho CRM email template images with WordPress. So this is a video I did, and he asked, when I put an image into an email template, can I dynamically change the image from my custom field, assuming the custom fields are URLs that are supported in a WordPress site? Well, I've got good news for you. You can. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll walk you through the process. So I went ahead and pre-created an email template here that we're going to go ahead and edit. So what you're going to do now, unfortunately, there is an option in images to do a web URL, but you can't put any custom fields, merge tags into those links they won't pull. So you have to use some HTML. So let's go ahead and create some dynamic content here. And we'll just the owner for this example is there contains plain. And what we have here now is a block that we can go ahead and start editing. So like, let's say you wanted to do like a 2-column kind of image on the left, image on the right. So in order to make the image dynamically pull and work, what we're going to have to do is use inner HTML. So we'll go ahead and delete this. And we were going to go ahead and create a custom table real quick. So set up the parameters. Am I coding on the spot? One, so we'll set up a basic table here. and we'll set up a table row and data. First, we'll put the image on the left. So in image source equals, and then for our source here, I went ahead and pulled up an image on our WordPress site. So this would be located in your media file. So we got a beautiful picture of myself here. And what I'll do for this example is I'm going to copy in where the image lives. However, this field here, we're going to go ahead and dynamically change in a second and show you. So we'll say dynamic field, and we'll go ahead and set defaults, image, description here. And then let's go ahead and finish building out our table. So we built image on the left, and now we'll close out this table data, and we'll go ahead and put in one more table data set, and go ahead, insert text here, and then we'll go ahead and close out our table data and our table row and our table. So if I did this right, you should have a table. Text here, image is broken. So now what we can do is, let's use a merge tag, and we'll use city for this example. So I went ahead and made the city I live in as Wayne. So I live in the Wayne, just to kind of show you how this will work. So we'll go ahead and copy this merge tag here, and we'll go back into our HTML. So if you're loading images into your WordPress site, the dynamic field in this instance, we're going to go ahead and use city and then end it with the PNG because that's the file type that I have it saved as here. And we're going to go ahead and hit apply. We can go ahead and see that we have a table built here. We're going to go ahead and proceed. And I'm going to go ahead and send this to myself. And this should be sending, and then we'll go ahead and give it a second, and it should pull up in my inbox here. So I went ahead and pulled it in a new tab. And as you can see here, I'm pulled in, we have the city here, the image that we didn't load, but I dynamically pulled myself in through the dynamic field. So if the account owner is me, I'm seeing this image, I'm the account owner of myself, so I can go ahead and see my image. And it's loaded in. And that's essentially how you can dynamically drop in using WordPress fields, dynamic fields that you can pull in here. Just the naming conventions, you want to make sure you standardize, the main folder and then the fields here to pull in. Anyways, I hope that answers your question, and back to you guys.
Alrighty, thank you, Wayne, for jumping in there. Next question here is going to go to me. So this was a question asked on one of our episodes of AZAAZ, episode number 13. With regard to employee onboarding, wouldn't using Zoho People be the best solution as it has onboarding as a built-in process? So good question. We were probably talking about either document generation, CRM, Recruit, all these different apps. What you'll find is that there's a lot of ways to do things within Zoho. Oftentimes you can, depending on the application, things like CRM Creator, you can really build any process into those. You surely can run employee onboarding via Zoho People. If you're going to use it as your HR tool, you definitely should. For a lot of people and a lot of the clients we work with, and mostly just because we don't work a ton with people, they're not using it as their HR platform. So we'll end up building a process like this somewhere else, right? And then sending data to wherever they need it in the long term.
All right, this next question comes from a comment on the Zoho Flow product tutorial that Jordan and I just recently did. Andreas Carlson is asking, I've been thinking about integrating ChatGPT into my email so that some of the emails are auto-generated. Could I do it with Zoho Flow? And a little bit of extra context, we kind of trimmed down the question a little bit, but Andreas was also asking about auto responding using ChatGPT responses. And first and foremost, we strongly discourage the idea of just trusting ChatGPT implicitly and just sending its messages out without a human proofreading it first. So with that, I mean, I think we're not sure what email client you're using, but I have to think that there's an easier plugin that you can probably find for whether it's Gmail or Zoho Mail that Zoho Mail already does have an integration where you can put in a ChatGPT OpenAI key, and have it help draft responses for you. But then you have to still click the send button. And undoubtedly, there's already, I'm sure, a million Gmail plugins for connecting ChatGPT to like auto draft emails for you. But so I would say just look for a direct plugin with whatever your email client is, and just don't fully trust the AI overlords just yet.
Living life on the edge there, Andreas. That's all I'm saying,
All right, I think this next one's for me. So this is a question from Kyle related to our YouTube video, a Zoho survey full product tutorial. So I watched the webinar on Zoho survey. During the webinar, Tyler said it is possible to pre-populate the fields if the survey is sent from the candidate's record. I've been unsuccessful in making the pre-population work. This afternoon, Zoho Tech Support said pre-populating the name, phone, and email is not possible, which is correct. So I did pull this one up. I prepped a quick little screen share on my side here to show, I guess, what I was referring to. So inside of Zoho survey within the hub here in a survey, I've got kind of a basic one here, just first name, last name, and email. And under hub, I can select from various integrations. So in sending from the CRM, I'm able to, if I'm choosing to update the record, meaning it already exists in CRM, then I want to pre-populate those survey answers with information from Zoho CRM. So here, I just have those mapped. We need to make sure each of those are lined up, last to last, first to first, email to email. Any other fields that you have, you can just continue to add rows and add those. Again, I just have the 3 in Zoho surveys, so, a very simple form here. From there, on the CRM side of the house, under customization and templates, we'll need to create an email template that contains a kind of special link to that survey. So I'll add a new template here under contacts. And up here in the little links, if we add a link, we can grab from an existing Zoho survey. One little note here, make sure that the survey is launched before you try to select it. I just mentioned that because I forgot to launch it when I was prepping for this little walkthrough. So it will not show up here, of course, until it's been launched, which is just your last step on creating a survey. So they do have integrations to various applications, Zoho Recruit, Sales IQ, Zoho Sheets. If we're talking specifically on the Zoho Recruit side, it looks like I haven't connected that yet. But that integration should work essentially the same. So take a look there. And if that doesn't solve it for you, just drop us another question.
The other thing to make sure you have is the Zoho survey integration turned on inside of the CRM.
Yep.
And Kyle, if you ever have a doubt, should I trust Zoho support or should I trust Tyler? Come on now. Come on.
All right, this one's back to me. This also comes from our Zoho Flow tutorial. Ed T asks, biggest issue I have had with Zoho Flow and decision trees is with Zoho Sheets and the CRM lead lookup. I ask it to look up lead based on email. If null, then by default, create the lead. What happens, however, is that flow brings through empty information, so the output to create a new lead has no email or name. Really annoying. I looked up your previous how-to with Tyler and with Zoho Sheets, and it still didn't work. But it works okay for Zoho Checkout in trying to create a deal or contact. So, Ed, I'm certainly am sorry you're experiencing that kind of frustration. The it's really hard for us to be able to tell without taking a closer look at the particular way that you've set up those null checks, as you mentioned, of making sure that if the lead is actually found or if the email is not null, because null checks can be tricky depending on the data type, right? Because sometimes, depending on the way that you do it, it might be like an empty string with no letters in it, but it counts that as being a thing, even though there's no text. So if you want to drop us a line in Club Zenatta, where you'd be able to also drop some screenshots, of your current setup and your criteria and all that, then we'd be happy to get in there and help you troubleshoot. But unfortunately, without some more context, wouldn't be able to tell you just off the top of my head what might be going wrong.
Alrighty, next question here from YouTube on a video we did back in 2021, Zoho CRM and Finance Workflows and Automations tutorial. Dear Tyler, thanks for a great explanation. I have one question about workflows. I want to change the deal's status to 75%, so maybe kind of the deal stage and the expected closing rate whenever an estimate is created. How can I access the Zoho Finance module in CRM in the workflow rules inside of Zoho CRM? So good question. The trick is you don't. You want to jump over into Zoho Books, and you've got workflow triggers there as well. You're right on the money that technically that Zoho Finance module, it doesn't really exist in CRM. It's kind of shown there, but all that data lives on the Zoho Books side. So to trigger a workflow, we'll need to set it up there. Now, for something like this, you will need to use deluge code. You won't need to use a lot of it. But what you'll need to do is set up a workflow to trigger a custom function. That function can actually get the deal ID from the estimate. It should be under like a ZCRM potential ID or ZCRM reference ID field name. I always forget which one it is. Using that, you can actually run the update to the stage of the deal in CRM. So it's not a huge deluge code. We should have some things in our code share that might even point you in the direction. This might be from a Zoho webinar that we did, Brett, from way back in the day. And I think we may have included the code somewhere for that. So this might be floating around somewhere on our side.
Yeah. I don't know. It's 2.5 years ago or something.
Yeah, we'll do it as a code share if not. So check out Club Z. I'll do a little digging.
All right. The next question here is from H3 Painting. After watching Zoho CRM Blueprints tutorial, they ask, I am now designing a blueprint thanks to you guys. Do you have a tutorial on building an accept button for quotes without the use of the Zoho portal? What I'm guessing is that they need a button for their clients to accept quotes whenever they send out the quote to the client. And you could use a CRM client portal and create a blueprint within the client portal that the client could select accept on, but you're asking if we could do it without the Zoho portal. And there's no way to create a public link that would give them access to a blueprint. But what you could do if you don't want to use a portal at all, then you could have a Zoho survey or a Zoho form go out to the client that would allow them to update the status of that quote. And then assuming that the quote is not in the blueprint stage or it's not using a blueprint for the accept process, then it'll just update the status and you're good to go. If it is locked into a blueprint, you will need to write a function to make that status update work. Otherwise, it's going to be locked and the survey won't actually update the status. So that's just a technical thing. If you're not using the blueprint for them to accept it, then you're good to go. If you do need to use the blueprint, then there's going to be an extra function to write.
All righty. The next question comes from Monique Van Eck. I would like to measure how many incoming leads in our Zoho CRM are actually coming from our Google Ads. This question, by the way, is left over at clubzenatta.com. It's called Tracking Incoming Leads in Zoho CRM via Google Ads. Probably should have started with that. We're using Zoho Forms. That's good on the landing pages. And we've connected the Google Ads app via the marketplace with Zoho CRM. We have done the following settings, but I'm not sure how that it's now properly installed for complete tracking. The question now, what is now 2023 the best way to track Google Ads versus incoming leads in Zoho CRM via the Google Ads app and the Google Tag Manager? Is it better using UTM tracking? Settings done. Connected Google Ads app with Zoho CRM, Zoho Forms. Mark checkbox in the forms. You've got the Google Click ID. Send Google Click ID to Zoho CRM. Share track entries. Basically on and on and on. Look, you basically went right. The only real problem here that I see, guys, is when you get down to it, it's using the Google Ads app or Zoho that tracks it that way. The best way to do this is just to pass everything to a Zoho form, not a CRM form, but a Zoho form, just using UTM codes. So you basically want to pass the Google Click ID and through that UTM, whatever else you want. So when they click on that, they're going to go to a Zoho form. Those fields are all hidden, but they're all going to be written via the UTM directly into the back of that Zoho form. So now when they save it, it's going to be in the CRM. You're going to have all that basic tracking information on the back end. That's how we do it. That way, you can track anything, no matter what link they're coming from. You can set the source of it. You can do whatever. It's really entirely up to you, whatever you're going to pass in that UTM. So, if you want to get that past Google Click ID, you can. You can also not pass a Google Click ID. You can pass a plain English ID that you guys know what it is. I mean, you can pass whatever you want to that Zoho form then, and then categorize it any way you want. Pump it up to analytics when all's done. Analyze it that way. It's really going to be the best way. It's unfortunate that the Zoho Google Ads integration, it's odd. Sometimes it seems to be working perfectly well, and then sometimes it just doesn't, and we can never really figure out why, but there are times it just seems to kind of go off the rails and not really give you what you want, and this is just a foolproof way of doing it. Anything you guys would add to that? Or
Yeah, you'll need the little script. There's a script inside of Zoho Forms that you can put on the website that enables the UTM tracking for a form that's been embedded on the page.
That's certain.
That's all.
Ain't done a video on this?
Say again? Yeah, I think we've done it. There may be a video on the channel somewhere on that particular little feature. And then, you can pass UTM campaign, ad group, term, anything you need. At the end of the day, pull it all to analytics. All of your Google Ads data can also pull to Zoho Analytics. So oftentimes we'll kind of give that like spend versus ROI type of reporting. Like you spent $1,000 this month on this campaign, created 10 leads, you closed one deal, et cetera, et cetera. But we generally just end up going that way.
All right. Next question comes after watching Zoho Campaign's full product tutorial 2022. Kate asks, "Hi, thank you so much for this video. We've been getting in a bit of a pickle with our campaign setup, and this really helped us to get various aspects clearer in our head. Question: I understand that to send a campaign, it must be linked to a topic. We appear to have a number of contacts who have been deselected from all of our topics, but have not unsubscribed. So, strictly speaking, we still have permission to contact them. We would like to send them an occasional email by way of an update or re-engagement. Is there a way of having everyone on a topic that they can't unsubscribe from, or some other way of contacting these topic list people? Thanks." So yes, you should be able to just create a new topic and then add all of those contacts, all the topic list people to that topic. And then that would give them the ability to unsubscribe from that topic at a later time. And then if you needed to create another topic, technically you could. Until they unsubscribe from your organization entirely, then you are able to create topics and add them to them. I believe that's it, right? You guys have any comments on that?
Or just skip campaigns altogether, depending on the size of your list, and send them an email from the CRM. They won't even have the ability to unsubscribe at that point in time because it's just an email going out. That's one way of doing it. But I think, Josh, it's kind of the right way. Kind of funny, they'll just keep adding unlimited topics from the topic list people
until they unsubscribe from your organization. You have that permission. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, because the issue is that even if you did this, because there's nothing you can do to like prevent them from not being a part of any topic, because I'm assuming what happens is they go to topic management and they just click unselect all, or, remove me from all or whatever, so that they're, so even if, unfortunately there's no way to like mandate a topic to stay selected for somebody and still stay in your organization.
All right, next question here for me. This asked by Manpreet over on YouTube, a video called Purchase Process in Zoho Books for 2022. Can you please explain what a purchase receive is exactly for? So good question. In the sales and in the purchase process inside of Zoho Books and Inventory, you can think about there's essentially two arms of that process. So the purchase order represents the purchase as a whole. The purchase bill represents you paying for that purchase. The purchase receive represents you actually getting it in your hands, right? So you physically have it. Greg is acting this out super accurately. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube so you can see his very useful demonstration. But essentially it's a physical component. So similar to sales, you have the sales order. That's the sale as a whole. You've got the invoice for the receiving of payment. And then you have the package for you actually shipping it out of the warehouse. So it's all just about what you have in hand physically, because different businesses might pay for purchases at different times related to when they actually receive it. Hopefully that gets that question answered for you.
Alrighty. Next question in here comes from Dean. Dean posted a comment in Club Zenatta and asks, I'm using Zoho Inventory, which will synchronize to my Shopify, and Shopify synchronizes to Xero accounting. What I would like is I don't want Zoho to fulfill any of my orders, but rather just track my stock. So the sales order needs to be created as per normal. I need it to complete the whole process from sales order to invoice to shipment and package. I don't want any of this to synchronize with Shopify. The only thing that needs to synchronize back to Shopify is the physical stock level. Would this be possible? Yes, absolutely. So I've actually created an entire YouTube video on how to set this up, starting with the standard Shopify to inventory integration, which will push sales orders into Zoho Inventory and will also sync back the stock level from inventory into Shopify, because you mentioned that is a requirement. And then the next step is you will need to write a little bit of code and workflow inside of Zoho Inventory to create the invoice, the payment, the package, and the shipment. Those 4 other related records to the sales order do not get created through the standard Shopify integration. So there is some code and a workflow that you will have to customize and create. But I have an entire article on this and a YouTube video to walk you through it. So check out that YouTube video. Probably be in the comments below or the description below, and that should get you what you need.
All right, this next one comes from Club Zenatta. Michael Feed asks, I'm working on copying information into a Zoho sheet using the crm.sheet.createRecord function in the CRM. And I have followed through the recommendations so far on how to implement it. However, I've run into an error that says, error message, this sheet does not exist. I checked the sheet and it should be published and the name is correct. The error says that it's an invalid or non-existent name, but I know it exists as I have the ID for it. I was wondering if anyone has any insights or help they'd be willing to give. So I actually have a screenshot up here to show. Now, I don't know if this is exactly what is causing the issues on your end, Michael, but this is a theory that I have based on the way you've described it. That when the input arguments for inserting a row into a Zoho sheet, right, are you put in the ID of the Zoho sheet file, and then you say the name of the sheet within that file, and then a map or a list of maps that contains the data inside, with assuming that by default it assumes that the first row act as headers, If the first row is not your headers and there's a different row that acts as headers, you can add an additional parameter that defines that the header row should be this number or whatever. So what I'm wondering is if perhaps there might be a little bit of a misnomer or disconnect with the file name versus the sheet name. So looking in here, when it asks for a sheet name, given the fact that the app is called Zoho Sheet, in this instance, you would assume that, well, the name up at the top of the screen, that's the name of my sheet, right? Not exactly. That's the name of your file. And then your file can be made up of multiple sheets. By default, there's just one, and it's called Sheet 1. So you can see down on the bottom of the screen there, similar to what you'd find in Excel, or Pages, or not Pages, Numbers. So the input argument for the sheet name needs to be that name at the bottom of the screen versus the one at the top. And that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, I've got two examples, one where I make the call incorrectly and one where I do make it correctly. And we get not the exact same error message that you're getting. Mine says invalid data found for the parameter worksheet name, whereas yours says name does not exist or sheet does not exist. In which case that means there might be something wrong with what goes in what you're putting in the file ID parameter. In which case that ID is just a big long string, big long collection of numbers and letters that's at the end of the URL whenever you have the sheet open, and that would be your file ID. If that answers your question, if you can try this and that works, great. If not, please hop back over into Club Zenatta and either share us the code snippets that you're using, or a screenshot of your Zoho sheet, and we'd be happy to take a look. And it's a back-to-back double whammy for me. This one is also a Club Zenatta. Beat Z says, in the CRM Zen show, you mentioned that it is now easier to add CRM fields to Zoho Writer. Our proposals look a little more like PowerPoint slides, so I wanted to get them into Zoho Show and autofill text based on CRM data. Is it possible to use Zoho Show for this, or do we need to use Zoho Writer? The quick answer is you should use Zoho Writer. Zoho Show does allow for creating sort of dynamic data fields. However, there is not a integration with the CRM for those data fields, at least not one that I saw in my investigations there. Zoho Show can pull from Zoho Sheet, but then we're talking about you'd have to build something that would communicate all your CRM info into a Zoho Sheet and then pull that into Zoho Show. No reason to go through that headache. Much better choice to just go with Zoho Writer. You can always play with the Zoho Writer template page setup to turn it into a landscape view, so you can get kind of more of that PowerPoint slide look. The other huge benefit of using Zoho Writer is that you have things like conditional fields, right? You can formulate it so that when you're generating that proposal, depending on what kind of information is in the CRM, you can have entire sections of your proposal show or not show, depending on those dynamic parameters. So like, for example, if you were to look at the raw Zenatta proposal before we send it out to somebody, before it gets merged, there's just so many if-else statements in there to make like the most like
something page template, and it normally goes out at about 15, 16 pages.
Exactly.
It's massive.
But yeah, that's so proposals really, really benefit from that because it helps keep it personal for your clients.
Yeah. And really can.
I'd recommend
like
go to
you
Writer.
said, Greg, you can do it in portrait mode and landscape mode, and just really dial it in to look like a show template and make it pretty. All righty. The next question comes from Christopher, who watched our YouTube video, Setting Up Your Domain in Zoho Mail, a 2021 beginner's tutorial. Can I use more than one domain from the same user account? I want to handle domain 1 and domain 2 in the same user. Well, Christopher, kind of. I mean, so you need to go to mailadmin.zoho.com and click on domains and add your domain. And once you've got a couple domains in there, you then can click on any users, and all the way on the far right-hand side, there are 3 little dots. You can click on those dots, and you can then add another mail account to it. But it's going to be an alias. So, and a person can send from that alias, and then you could have the email coming in, and you can handle it that way. I'm not sure that's exactly what you're looking for, but it does quasi-accomplish it. It's not the same. I mean, if you're using something like Gmail, you can have multiple accounts, but you're actually pulling in all of the accounts individually, and you're setting up send froms from those different accounts. And in my checking around in the back end on the Zoho Mail admin, I'm not seeing that kind of capability there. But it'll get you kind of close. Anything you guys got on that, or? Nope.
Yeah, that's about it.
You nailed it.
All righty. I'm going to do
fire the box.
I'm going to go now with a follow-up, just like Greg, back to back here. This one comes from Surrender. Never give up. It's after watching our YouTube categorize bank transaction and a reconciliation in Zoho books. Please do explain how to match salary paid entries in bank statement to employees. So, Surrender, I think what you're asking here is you run your payroll, and then you get that payroll file and you want to match it in. That's usually done through a journal entry. And depending on what payroll your service, some payroll services, you can automatically do it in, but usually you can just download that journal entry and put it on in. If you are paying people kind of individually, you could, set them all up in your chart of accounts that way under payroll and then match it. But it gets rather complicated with taxes and withholding and everything else and what's being paid and what you actually paid. And so normally you're going to want to get that every 2 weeks or every week. Whenever you pay your payroll, you should have a complete journal entry dump that you can get from whatever your payroll service is. And then that then gets entered into Zoho books as a journal entry. And if I'm wrong on any of that, John Odo can jump in and maybe make another comment on this in the inside of Club Zenatta.
All right. The next question comes from Everett Gent. He posted in Club Zenatta. Thanks so much for all of the great content you all produce. I want to get your thoughts on best practices for physical addresses. First, anything to be aware of in general. Second, best practices for project sites, integrating with FSM. Is there a way to create a map view similar to leads and contacts for deals, or any other situations or tips you may have? So yeah, addresses can be a little tricky, especially if you're wanting to standardize them, and if you have different users creating or have different, maybe they like to spell out state versus the abbreviation, or maybe you have a public form where you're capturing this information, and end users or your customers, they are typing in it in various different formats. So the best answer I have is create the state field as a pick list so that it's just defined. Same with country if you need to capture that. Another thing is add a state or street line to field. That will help you standardize whether that street line is in the main line or the second line. And so if you just create a street line 2, and you should be good to go, and that will contain any unit numbers or apartment numbers. And then if you have a public form, make sure you also add the state pick list and also capture the street line 2 as separate fields in that public form. So that's just kind of first things to be aware of. Second, you had mentioned, is there a way of integrating with FSM? And I'm not sure if you're asking about Zoho FSM, which is a thing in beta. It's if you wanted to go to fsm.zoho.com, you can request early access. The only downside with Zoho FSM is that it doesn't integrate with the CRM. I'm hoping whenever they actually release this in full version that the FSM tool will integrate with the CRM, because that's where you're storing your contacts and your addresses and accounts. So Zoho FSM team, if you're listening, just make that connection. It needs to happen. But there was another question you had asked. Is there a way to create a map view similar to leads and contacts, but for deals? And so if you're inside of a lead or a contact, you can enter an address. And whenever you enter an address, you can actually click view on map. Now, if you want that on other modules like deals or accounts, or maybe you have a custom module, that does not exist there. So you could create a button or a widget that will invoke either Google API or just redirect you to a Google window or a Google Maps window that is basically surfacing that address. So that is possible. We have done that. I think, Greg, you might have worked on something similar, or we've had other developers work on widgets similar. But yes, you certainly can use Google API. What were you saying, Greg?
I was just saying, yes, we've done that before. And then also, Everett did also ask for just anything to be aware of regarding physical addresses in general. Never go to a second location. That's your other, that's just a general piece of advice about physical addresses. Yeah, they didn't say CRM general, just general anything. Never go to a second location.
Well, we got most of the way through before Greg tried to throw the monkey wrench in.
That was good. That was good.
All right, the last question here, and I'm also on a double whammy. Last one comes from Mark M. Post title is New Writer Integration with Zoho Creator. And then Mark asks, the new integration sounds great. It's clear how to utilize the first scenario that Zoho mentions in their announcement. But the second scenario of using Deluge is a little unclear as it pertains what does the Deluge code look like to print a writer template created for the designated Zoho creator form being printed from. That was a little confusing at the end there. What we had mentioned last is the writer integration with Zoho Creator or the Zoho Creator into Writer will allow you to quickly merge documents. Whenever you click merge and then you choose your data source and you click Zoho Creator, it'll grab all those fields. And that's a pretty easy way to create those documents. Now, if you're using Zoho Writer API and you want to build this out using Deluge, you will still need to invoke a URL or invoke an API request to Writer, and that needs to contain a map of all of the fields and their data that will populate the document. So it's not as easy as just passing in the creator record ID. You will need to pass in a map of every single field and their value to make that work. It would be great if we could just pass in the creator record ID and then the writer template would just grab that and then reference all the fields that you have in the writer doc. But that does not exist at the moment. So you will just need to manually pass in all the data, which is very similar to just using a custom data source and just creating your own fields. So unfortunately, there's not much benefit with the new update to the Zoho Creator to Writer integration if you are writing this in Deluge. But if you're merging it ad hoc and you want to just go in and create a quick document, then there is a benefit there.
And I will say they are in the process of adding the template ID, record ID method for CRM merges using the mail merge. So it's not impossible they'll one day bring that over to Creator. So yeah, it might be worth setting them up that way maybe in the meantime, just in case, because then later you can just switch over to the new method. But yeah, that's the only caveat there.
So Greg, if I go to the first address and there's a note that says go to a second address, should I do that, or is that a definite no?
Nope, that's a no. It's a big no.
Big red flag, big problem.
Yep, big red flag.
All right, so go to the address. Don't go to. That's it.
Just the first address.
Just the first.
That's it. Just the first address. They're not there. You go home. You call them. You say, "We'll meet up wherever you want. Let's go to the Starbucks on 5th."
I think it would need to be a public location after that, wouldn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. All right, everybody, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Ask Zenatta Anything About Zoho. We love doing this show for you. And if you'd like to talk to us, you can head over to zenatta.com and click on Book a Meeting.
On the website is where you'll find complete episodes of our podcast, The CRM Zen Show, where we cover all the news in the world of Zoho every single week. If you want that news delivered to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter.
Love to have you over at Club Zenatta. That's club.zenatta.com, which is our online forum where we get most of our questions for this show, as well as it's sharing a lot of code snippets and just communing with other Zoho users like yourself.
And if you're looking to train yourself or your whole team, you can head over to zenatta.com/training. And Drew, our senior consultant here at Zenatta, has built out an entire CRM training platform and Zoho projects training with multiple days and courses on each day. So check that out and get yourself trained and get your team trained.
As always, we'd love and appreciate if you would like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Wednesday.